In this tutorial, we'll go through the steps to model the exterior of a keyboard in Blender. First, we should decide on the type of keyboard we want to make, then find the product specs and collect reference images. For this video, we're going to base our layout on this Keychron Q5 mechanical keyboard and use cherry keycaps for the curved profile. And if you'd like to follow along, there's a link in the description with all of the reference images we use in this video, including this image texture we'll use for the keys. If you want to make your own, you can go to this website called keyboardlayouteditor.com. Here you can adjust the design of the keys and the layout, and you can either download the image or zoom in and screenshot it. Now let's open up Blender and get started. Go into the top view and press Shift A and add an image reference. Then let's look for the top view of the keyboard and add it. After that, add a mesh plane. Press N to open up this side panel. Here we can change the X to match the width of the product specs, which for this example is 408 millimeters, and we can change the Y to match the depth, which is 145 millimeters. Then we can scale down our image reference to match the plane. With the plane selected, let's go into edit mode. Press Ctrl R to use the loop cut tool. Then we can add edge loops around each section of the keys. This may take some time depending on how complex the layout is on your keyboard reference. Here you can see the arrow keys aren't aligned with the other keys, so it requires more edge loops. And the function keys are divided into sections of 4, so we need edge loops in between them. Now let's select all of the faces where the keys are, and press E to extrude them, and make sure we're extruding them down on the Z axis. Let's also select our image reference and move it down so it's out of the way. Then select our plane again. If we look at the transform panel, we can see that our scale is not set to 1 on the X and Y. So let's press Ctrl A and apply all transforms. Then we can start working on making this circular hole here in the top right corner. Let's add some loop cuts that divide the circle in half, vertically and horizontally. And let's add some extra loop cuts on the sides. Then we can select these 8 faces and press I to inset them. Press X and delete faces. Then, if we have Blender's built-in Loop Tools add-on enabled, we can select these edges, right-click, then select Loop Tools Circle, and scale it down. Then we can extrude down, select all of these vertices and scale them on the Z to straighten them out. Then we can extrude and scale, then press M and merge to center to fill the hole. Let's select this edge and press Ctrl B to bevel it. Then we can go back into object mode. Let's go to the modifier panel and add a bevel modifier. Change the limit method to none, and let's decrease this amount to 0.001. Let's also add a subdivision modifier, and we can add some segments to the bevel if we want. Now we don't want the bevel modifier to affect this circular part. So let's change the limit method from none to vertex group. Then click this green triangle icon to open the data properties panel. Click this plus icon at the top to create a vertex group. Go into edit mode and select everything, and click assign. Then only select this vertex in the middle of the circle, then press Ctrl and plus on the numpad to expand the selection until we have the entire circle selected. Then we can click remove. Let's go back to the modifier panel and select our vertex group. Now our keyboard frame is almost finished. Let's select these outside edges and extrude them down. Then click the face menu at the top and select Grid Fill. Next, we'll work on making the keys. Go into the top view, press Shift A and add a plane. The average width of a keyboard key is 18 millimeters. So let's open up the transform panel and change the X and Y to 18 millimeters. And don't forget to press Ctrl A and apply all transforms. Let's add another reference image. This time it should be the side of the keyboard or the profile of the keys. Scale the reference image so the base of the key matches our plane. And we can move the reference image off to the side. In the top view, let's move the plane over one of the keys. Then inset the face by pressing I. Go back to the side view and move it up to match the reference. We'll start with this top row. Then select these 4 edges and press Ctrl B to bevel them, and we can scroll up on the mouse wheel until we have 4 segments. Select this top face and delete it. Then select all of these edges and go to the face menu and click Grid Fill. Let's also add some loop cuts by pressing Ctrl R and scrolling up on the mouse wheel to place 3 loop cuts at a time. We'll do that for both directions. Most keycaps are not completely flat on the top. If we take a look at an image of cherry keycaps, we can see that they're designed to be concave. So let's go into the front view, enable X-ray mode by pressing Alt-Z, then select the vertices in the middle and enable proportional editing by clicking this icon at the top, or pressing the O key. Make sure to check connected only and change it from smooth to sphere. Then we can press G, then Z to move it down and use the mouse wheel to adjust the radius. Now that we have the shape done, we could add more edge loops or just add a bevel modifier in the modifier panel, and give it a subdivision modifier, then right-click it and shade smooth. In object mode, let's move this to the top left for the escape key. Then we could press Shift D, then X and move it over to start making the function keys. In the modifier panel, add an array modifier. And let's move the array modifier so it comes before the bevel and subdivision modifier. Change the count to 4 and change the offset method from relative to offset. And bring the X translation way down to where it matches the reference. After we're done with that, we can duplicate it by pressing Shift D and press X to keep it aligned. Then we'll make the other two sections of function keys, and we can duplicate and remove the array modifier to make this single key in between. We'll just change the count on this one to 3. The next row will have the same profile, so we can just duplicate any of our keys and move them on the Y to start building it. To make the keys that are wider, like this backspace key, we can start by placing a single key near the center. Then go into edit mode, then select the faces on one side and delete them. In the modifier panel, add a mirror modifier, and drag it all the way to the top. Now let's move these vertices to make it wider. And evenly space these edge loops so the top face has a smooth curve. Let's make the next row by duplicating a key and moving it down on the Y. This row has a different profile than the two above it, so let's go into edit mode and match it to the reference. Select these vertices and press G to move them and R to rotate them. Then we can copy over the array modifier we used before. Select the key, then shift select the row above it, then click this drop down arrow in the array modifier, then click copy to selected. Let's build the standard size keys first and come back later to make the wider ones. For these keys that are lined up vertically, we can copy and paste the X position to align them. Then we can make the next row by duplicating a key. Make sure to go into edit mode and adjust the profile to match the reference. Then position them in the top view. And keep repeating until we finish all of the rows. And the last two rows should have the same profile. Now there's an issue here with there not being enough space for the arrow keys. Luckily, it's easy to fix. We can select the keyboard case, go into edit mode, and add a loop cut. Let's press / to solo it, and let's disable our subdivision and bevel modifier just to see the base geometry. Then select these faces and delete them. Let's enable snapping by clicking this icon at the very top, and make the snap target edge. Press E then X to extrude to the side, then hover over this edge to snap it. Then shift select to select both of these edges, and press F to connect them with the face, and do the same thing to fill in all of the gaps. Then we can re-enable the bevel and subdivision modifier, and press / again to show everything. Now that should give us enough space for the arrow keys. To make these wider keys, we'll follow the same process we used to make the backspace key. Delete one side of it in edit mode, then mirror it and make it wider. Make sure to bring the mirror modifier to the top. For these three keys, we can keep the array modifier on them so they're all the same size. Then to make the spacebar, we'll duplicate a single key and stretch it out. Make sure to evenly space our edge loops. And for the spacebar, you'll want to make the profile more convex. Now for these longer keys on the side of the numpad, let's select the top half and move it up on the Y. Then delete these edge loops and add new ones to keep it more straight. To make the one above it, duplicate a key from the same row, remove these edge loops, select the top half and stretch it out, then add the edge loops. And for the knob in the top right, let's add a cylinder. And let's scale it down and position it. We can also bevel it and give it a subdivision modifier. Then we can delete these bottom faces and shade it smooth. Next, we'll be adding materials to everything. We'll make a material for the 3 different colored keys and the case. Let's open up the shader editor, press Shift A and add an image texture. Then select our layout image. Then we can connect it to the base color. And by default, it should be using the UVs. Right now, we haven't done anything with the UVs, so it'll probably look pretty messed up. What we want to do is apply all of the array and mirror modifiers and go into the top view and project from view. And in the UV editor, we'll be able to adjust them. Then it's all about scaling them evenly and positioning them over the correct letters and numbers. You can try to do it all at once by selecting them all, or work in sections like this, which is a bit more manageable. This can get pretty repetitive, so I'll speed through this part. Now let's select this blue material and add the same image texture. But instead of connecting it directly into the base color, let's put a mix color in between, and connect the image texture to the factor. Now we can control the color of the key and the color of the text. And we can add the image texture and the mix color to the black material. Then we can change the text color to a bright gray. A lot of keyboards have a slight angle to them. To achieve that, we can select all of our keys and parent them to the case. Then rotate the case by 5 degrees or however much you want. After that, select the bottom faces of the case and either rotate them or scale them so they lay flat. If you want to add lights underneath, you can put planes under the keys with an emission material assigned to them. To make it easier, just hide the case by selecting it and pressing H. Then place planes by duplicating and using array modifiers just like we did with the keys. Then you should be able to adjust the emission strength and the hue in the material panel. And there we have our basic keyboard model. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video useful, please leave a like, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. And you can check out my other videos on my channel, like how to model a low poly character, and some tutorials on geometry nodes. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, let me know in the comments.